I'm Lara. I'm the founder of LYT Yoga Method, and just a little bit of a background to really set the stage for the teacher training. It was actually the impetus for pretty much everything. I was teaching. Hi, Antoinette. So I was teaching yoga, and I was a physical therapist with a neuro specialization and was kind of keeping those in different lanes until I decided to bridge the gap between them because I felt like yoga was missing that kind of the kind of intelligence of physical therapy. And it was really an opportunity to bring that in to each class to really help people feel empowered in their own bodies and understand movement, understand their bodies, understand good biomechanics, and because then they could bring that into their lives. So it wasn't just kind of come to class, feel better, and leave, but more of an opportunity to practice instilling that information, repeating it so that every individual could become, more educated and just feel that empowerment that we all have when we have more knowledge. So I started bringing, and I tested it out. I had a small group of people. This was over 20 years ago, and I was teaching them and starting with our reset, as you're familiar with, and the reset is really to reestablish our connection to our core, understanding the importance of neutral spine and neutral pelvis, and setting up ways to kind of rewire the connection between the brain and body on the ground with so much support, information, and feedback before we get into bigger movement patterns. Because people will come into a yoga practice or any kind of movement practice with their already existing imbalances. And if you don't do a kind of proper reset, so to speak, incorporating that
Mhm.
brain body education, then you're just going to perhaps exacerbate the already existing imbalances. And when I started doing that, all my students were so enthusiastic. They loved it. They were like, why don't everybody teach this way? And so I was teaching it in my home studio. I had about 150 students. And then what would happen is when I would leave on vacation and come back, they were all like, you can't ever go away. I don't feel like I can go anywhere else. I don't feel safe. They would say these things to me. And I thought, well, that's really troubling that even if they knew and felt all this information that they had, that they could maybe, modify or apply that into a class, there's also the sequencing of it. If the sequences aren't really also kind of intelligent, they don't necessarily make you feel very good. But that was when I really realized like it was not the yoga teacher's fault that this was happening. This was the system. There's one overriding um, accreditation agency. And they really, at this point, this was like in 2006, 2007, they were letting anyone and everyone
Mm.
who applied to become have a teacher training program, they were letting them all. And there was no kind of oversight at all. So you had to check a box. Like I sent in, Rhonna will like I sent in pages covering all the things that was going to cover. And they said, oh, you don't need to do that. You just need to check this off. And I thought, what? So it was just revealing to me over and over again, this was not the teachers, it was the system. The system wasn't setting the teachers up for success. So I felt really compelled to develop a teacher training that would support teachers, that would give them the education so that they could teach all the different bodies and every body that comes in. Because if yoga is purporting to be inclusive, it really wasn't, because it wasn't empowering the teachers to teach to a variety of backgrounds and people. And that's not good all the way around. So I developed the training really because I saw this huge gap in the education that teachers were getting. They love yoga, they're so passionate about it, they want to teach, and then they aren't given the most fundamental skill of learning about the body when a body is involved in the actual practice. So I always say it's like going to a car mechanic and all they can do is pop the hood and maybe fill the oil, but anything else they're just like, I don't know how to do that, right? Like it would be you just would, in any other line of work or profession, it would be unconscionable to set somebody up with so little tools. And so I started doing this teacher training. I did it in person. And eventually, as I was traveling more and also getting more people outside of even my state, even outside of the country who are interested, I developed the online program so that it would be easier because not everybody has, 4 weeks to take off of work, pay to stay somewhere, and pay for the training. So the in-person training, the online training was developed in all throughout 2019, and we launched it in January of 2020. We've had 11 cohorts. We have over 1,000 teachers all around the world. Um, and it's been amazing. And we've gotten feedback from every cohort we've implemented. And one feedback we've gotten is we have people who are already existing 200. They've been teaching a while. Some of them are 500. We've had people who've had, 15 years of experience and are 500-hour trained and have done our teacher training. And we've always said it's so different. You can't really just go right to our level 2 because you would not be prepared. You have to start with level 1 because our level 1 goes through all the functional anatomy, all the methodology and the why behind the way we sequence things. Um, and then our guided, which there's 2 different versions now because people did say like they would like a shorter version if they already have a 200-hour. So I'll first talk about the guided. The guided is the comprehensive, and it is the one that you can get Yoga Alliance certification from, the 200-hour. It includes everything. It has teacher methodology. It has the functional anatomy. It has philosophy, all of that woven in, as well as each week has the theme and a class. And Rhonna will give you a little peek about that. This self-guided is different in that it's really good and appropriate for people who have a 200 already existing and they don't need a Yoga Alliance certification per se. Some people who don't care about Yoga Alliance, which I totally understand, could also do it, and they would be LYT certified, but they would not be eligible for 200-hour Yoga Alliance certification because for that you do have to have some of these Zoom calls in you know in person, so to speak. What is it called? Like
Synchronous instruction.
synchronous, yes. But the self-guided is really would be appropriate for people who are already existing movement educators, whether it's Pilates teachers, personal trainers, yoga teachers, etc., who really just want to understand the methodology, get the functional anatomy, have the classes, and they don't need some of the extra stuff that you get because they've already had it, like philosophy, they've already had that. Um, but people still like to do there are people who've done 200, 500, and they still really like the guided. The advantage of the guided is that it really infuses all of these things together in this integrated way that really makes sense. You also have one Zoom a week with me so that you can ask questions. We go over things together. I can demonstrate a little bit what we might do with like Rhonna here for, we could look at her posture or a pose or something. We do all that on the Zoom calls. And it also builds community because you really get to know the people in your cohort. Um, so that is kind of the background of that. And now I'm going to hand it over to Rhonna. Rhonna is the Director of Education and Programming and a senior lit teacher.
All right. Hi, everyone. As Lara said, my name is Rhonna. A little background about me. I did my in-person training with Lara in 2014. So that's when I did my lit level 1. And then I completed my 500-hour with her in 2018. And since then, even before our online trainings were launched, I was supporting our in-person teacher trainings with and doing continuing education for our home studio community. It's been a joy ever since we launched this online training to really take on the role of I am an educator by day, and so I oftentimes say that I am like the little principal of the yoga school back here and just doing all the behind the scenes work to keep the yoga school going and ensuring that you all have the best experience that you can. As you go through the training. So that is really my role and job here, is to just kind of make sure that this is everything what you get out of it, what you need. In a moment, I'm going to go in and show you a behind the scenes view of the team guided training. We usually just call it guided and then self-guided. And someone was like, well, it really is a team guided training, because you get myself, you get Lara, you'll have a mentor, and there is a team of people who are literally here walking alongside you over the course of the entire training. And then the self-guided is much more independent, but you still have the support systems just via email. So I will go ahead and share my screen and let you see what the training looks like. Here we go. All right, so you can see my screen here. This is our guided LYT level 1 training. And this is what it looks like after you've purchased the course. So when you log in, there's an introduction section, which is where all the important information is, the course outline, the live call schedule, requirements for certification, the instructor agreement. And then you can see here that our March training, cohort 11, we still have their recorded Zoom calls here for them. These will end up getting archived down at the bottom of the training, and the fall training will have their calls here in place of it. So those calls are always there, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. As I scroll down, this is a sample week, and I'll tell you that every single week is structured very much the same. So it starts with a class that's led by Lara. This class's theme really leads the week in terms of the content. So the class is for your asana, which plays with the idea of Shira and Sukha kind of having this strength and softness. And then in the class breakdown, which follows every single class that Lara does, she really breaks down the why behind every move. And this is important because we do not want you to just, okay, I do the moves, but it's like, no, we want you to really understand and embody the why. Why is it that we moved in this way? Why was this cue the way that it was? And so it's so that you really can come out with an understanding of the movement rather than just a mimicry, if you will, of the movement. And then there is my version of Lara's class, which is a modified version. So Lara's classes are all 3 sequences and a stream, if you know the foundation of the method. Mine are presented in a 2 sequence and a stream. While they are technically a little bit shorter, they're in around the 42-minute zone. They are designed that you could slow them down even more and stretch them out to fit a beginner style class in a 60-minute format. And that will become important later as we start talking about the requirements for certification at the end of the course, where we ask you to teach one of these classes. And you can teach one of Lara's classes, or you can teach one of mine. It depends on who you're teaching to, right? So you'll be able to choose which one is right for you. This also allows everybody, based on where they are in their own physical readiness today, to choose the class that's best for you. We'll have people come and they're like, oh my gosh, I injured my wrist, or I'm just getting over a shoulder thing. Well, then we have a more modified version of a class that's available for you, but you can always listen to or watch the other version. And then following the classes, there is the philosophy lecture, again, where this is in the team guided training, which is our most comprehensive training. And then we'll go into teacher methodology, which is in this first week is how to be an observer and talking about different types of intelligence. The anatomy review comes next, and this is just the first lecture on anatomy that will set up the rest of them. What is brilliant about the way Lara designed all the anatomy lectures is that they really scaffold along the way. And so if in the first lecture you're like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of terms I don't understand, it's going to be like, okay, it's all right. She's going to review it and then build upon that with every single lecture. So it does get easier. I think an important thing here also is that we do have English closed captions for all of these videos as well. This is exceptionally important for all of our trainees for whom English is their second language. It will help with really the retention and understanding of the content. The other thing is that with each of these videos, you have the ability to slow down the playback or speed up the playback, again, which will just help with any processing things, the ability to kind of digest the content in a more meaningful way. Finally, each week we'll end with kind of another methodology and or anatomy based, and the posture video is a little bit of both. And I'm going to click on this one just for a second to show you. Anytime we have a hefty video in the course, and there are a handful of hefty videos in terms of duration and just the density of the content, we always have in the notes underneath kind of a breakdown. So you can see that in the first 15 minutes, Lara's just talking about the bones of posture. In the next 15 minutes, how do we observe posture? What are the markers that we look for? And then, so you'll notice if we were to go through this, the entire big chunky video is broken down into smaller bits that we've timestamped for you. So you can be like, all right, I only have 30 minutes today and I want to work on this video. I will get to through the 27-minute mark, and that's my pausing point. And then you know for sure, okay, the next time I pick this up, I'm going to start at the 27-minute mark and do the next two chunks. And we've just found that that makes it really accessible for people to feel like, okay, I know where a good pausing point is according to the people in the training, that I can pause, kind of digest the content, and then come back to it again. And so I just thought that that's important to point out, because it really, those types of things make the content really meaningful, to be able to chunk it in a digestible way. There are supplemental materials here from things that we have. These have all been, Lara mentioned, every time we run these trainings, we get feedback from people in the end of course survey, and then we make changes to the training to kind of support that. So one of the things that was suggested over time was that we love hearing Lara's view on philosophy, but there's also other views on philosophy. And so we have guest lecturers who have provided little mini lectures on philosophy through their lens. And it's just another lens, taking a look at the same philosophy topics that Lara talks about, but just bringing in somebody else that may present the topic in a slightly different way that may be more or less relatable depending on where your background is. So the philosophy through another lens is included there under supplemental materials. The developmental principles is there. However, they're supplemental. These are not required videos for you to watch at the end of the training. The reason specifically the developmental principles is not required is because that is going to be the topic of our live call during the first week. So this content that we talked about is all week one. The 90-minute live call that is scheduled with Lara is going to lecture about developmental principles, and we will talk about it as a group. And that will be one of the things that we'll do every week, is the topic from the supplemental material will be there. And then usually this posture lecture, whatever kind of the applied teacher methodology is, that is going to be a place where Lara will do demos. And that's one of the things that she may do with me today, to give you a sense of what those demos are like when we're on a live call. So in the team guided training, you are required to watch the content that is listed here under week one. The content that is not required is the supplemental content, because that is going to be covered elsewhere. The live call is required. Those are required by Yoga Alliance, that you either, for the RYT 200, that you either attend live, or we allow you to watch the recording after the fact. And I'll touch base about those recordings in just a moment. So you'll see, if I won't go through it nitty gritty like I did before, but you'll see week 2 is structured the same. Lara's class breakdown, my modified version, yoga philosophy, teacher methodology, and then starting to get a little bit more into some physiology and terminology. You can start to see right here, I have broken down at the bottom. Part 1 is the muscular system. Part 2, connective tissues. Part 3, terminology. So again, just chunks like we talked about in the posture lecture to make it more digestible for you. And then a review of anatomy of what we've talked about the week before and this week. And each week ends with a small 10-question quiz. So, and then you'll see that you have that philosophy through another lens available for week 2. So if I were to scroll through the rest of the training, you would see it's exactly the same format as those first 2 weeks. What I will show you about the live calls, and I think this is really valuable, each live call is time-stamped, which really helps, especially if you're the person who's being worked on, that you can kind of say, ooh, okay, I want to go back and see where Lara did a demo with me. And so a lot of times when we have questions or when we have demos, we will timestamp it with exactly when you asked your question and then when a demo happened, so that you can go back and be like, gosh, I know she talked to someone about blocks. And you can be like, oh, that's right here. She talked about how to convince people to use blocks in the 1 hour, 4 minute zone. So it just allows you to kind of go back and refer and zoom in and refer back to those calls. So this time stamping is available in every single one of our calls. And like we said, the supplemental material, the developmental sequence, there she starts talking about the developmental sequencing of LYT. And then so you can even just kind of preview if you weren't able to make the call live, what are some of the things that came up? If you ask a question, we're going to timestamp it so that you can go back and others can review as well. So I think that is one of the things that is absolutely brilliant about the team guided training is not only do you have that robust content from soup to nuts, if you will, it does provide you with Yoga Alliance RYT 200 if that's of interest or value to you. And additionally, those 90-minute calls with Lara and the team are so great because you get to get live real-time feedback on your own practice as it relates to the content that has come up that week. It's not a 90 minutes of like nonstop Q&A, although sometimes it can be very spitfire Q&A if there's something that's relevant. But it's intended that it usually starts with a check-in, a little mini lecture on whatever the week's topic is, and then it goes into some demos based on that content. So we thought that we would do a little demo of that. And if this was one of our live calls and I was a trainee and I would say, hey, Lara, I really am not sure what my posture looks like. Like, I don't know, do I have good posture, right? We're talking week 1 in posture. So then she would say, well, Rhonna, let's take a look, right?
Yeah.
All right, so then what we would do is we spotlight the person who's asking the question for everyone. And then I'm going to stand up and I'll be like, all right, well, how is my posture, Lara? So I'm going to stand up and then go ahead, Lara.
Right. So, I'll almost always ask somebody to turn to the side, even though we can see a lot from the front. But you'll learn in the first week how we align our triple S, which is the back of the skull, the scapula, and the sacrum. And that alignment is when the primary curves are stacked in the most efficient way. They share the most surface area, which makes you not look slumped like she's looking, which is kind of a drag of energy. So, what I would tell her to do is bend your knees, Rhonna, and bring your hand behind your head, and then bring your other hand on your front ribs and move your head back into your hand without moving your ribs forward. That's it. And then pull your front hand down toward your pelvis to kind of consolidate, pull the ribs. Yeah. And then press your feet, push the floor away to straighten your knees, but think of going straight up as opposed to a lot of times people will press their knees back and tip their pelvis. And then that's when we can look like we also talk about like visualizing the middle of her ears, going down to the middle of her shoulders, middle of the hip. Then you can kind of see that that's a more upright position. People don't have need to have their clothes off to to see any of this. You can really just do it by the points that we talk about, and then and if somebody said, "Well, I really have trouble with the back of my neck," I might just give them more of an input of how to, use their hands to kind of move some of the tissue back. She obviously knew what she's doing, so she was just giving us a little example. But that's what happens in every live call. Somebody might say, in plank, I feel like all my weight is in my wrist. And I'm going to say, well, let's look at your plank, because looking at something is going to reveal everything that I need to see. Otherwise, I can't really, okay, so, oh, look, she's going to do it. So if somebody was really feeling it in their wrist, she's not engaged in her center. So I would have her come onto her knees first and bring her knees really close. Yeah, so they're right underneath the pelvis. And then lift your head up a little bit so your ears are above the shoulders. And then feel some like the indentation between your scapula, like you're trying to kind of pull something there. Yeah. But at the same time, hold your front ribs from dropping down. Now slide one leg back at a time into plank and hold everything in position. And hopefully you're going to feel more energy up. Yeah, that's supported in the center. And so we would go through that, and something else might pop up, and we'll just,
Mhm.
and what's great is the person who is doing the demo gets real time ideas about what to do, but everybody watching is going to get such great information of how you can then help someone. And then
Mhm.
you'll, like, by week 5 or 6, you're going to start to see these things and know what to say, because you're going to feel much more confident. And then by the end of the training, you'll have so many tools of how to look at various bodies and various postures, and know how to give them feedback and how to do it virtually too. Like, you don't have to have the person in front of you. That's why that first week, when we talk about the being an observer, is huge. What you're observing bones, you're observing energy, you're observing alignment, you're observing the weight, the where's the center of gravity, all of those things, and they're just going to be kind of automatic by the time you're in it. Yes, Ruth, you had a question.
Yes, I would like to know at what time those live calls are planned.
That's a beautiful question.
Mhm.
You both are in, you both are going to be set up, because Antoinette's on the East Coast, you're in Germany. Euros and East Coasters are kind of biased, because I do it based on what's best for me as much as possible. Unfortunately, in our last cohort, we had, fortunately, we had almost all, Canadian, North American, and then Europe. We did have someone who was in,
Indonesia.
Where was she?
Indonesia.
Indonesia, which we do have, and we just that area of the world is, it's really unfortunate. They usually can make one of about 5 calls because of the time
Mhm.
zone. So,
Okay.
in answer to your question, it varies, but most likely you're going to be able to make most of them, because there's very few times it's like 5 p.m. my time, so it'd be 11 p.m. your time. It's usually sometime, you would have it sometime for you in Germany, late morning to evening. Um, Not
Mhm.
guaranteed. We try and move it around, because we do have West Coasters as well. We have
Mhm.
Canadians, but in general, you should be able to make a majority of them.
Okay, cool.
And then
Thanks.
if it doesn't work for your schedule for whatever reason, which is totally normal, um, people will do the recording. People love making live calls, so I know it's important that you want to try and make them, but we also know people
Mhm.
are busy, so there's always the recording up. That's usually within 24 hours.
Yeah, and like Lara said, we do alternate them. So where one might be at 11 a.m. Eastern and the next one's at 3 p.m. Eastern, and then we try and do then another might be at 8 a.m. Eastern the next day. And so it just will the next call. So we do try and rotate through the different kind of blocks of our day.
Mhm.
That allows everyone at least the opportunity to be able to come to one every handful of calls.
Okay.
And that's why the calls are always recorded and always uploaded as soon as possible. That way, the next morning, as you kind of get up and you're drinking your cup of coffee, you could pull up the Zoom call on your device and sip and participate in that day. That's a great question, Antoinette. What days are they? We alternate between Saturday and Sunday for the most part.
Oh,
Yeah.
So like one is on a Saturday, one is on a Sunday. Occasionally we'll do a Friday or a Monday. For example, in this last training, both Mother's Day and Father's Day happened here in the United States. So we ended up doing one of those calls on a Monday so that, the people who were celebrating, I think it was Mother's Day weekend, we ended up doing Monday instead because that's what worked out. And sometimes things flex, we'll publish the call schedule, but then if something comes up in the team schedule, we'll shift. And sometimes it'll be to a Monday so that we find a way to make it work for everyone. So, and so just as we totally understand that you have lives and can't make everything, like we also, try and work very hard to make sure that we're available for you. But when things change on our end too, then we create flexibility there. So, yeah.
and
That's
one more question. How
Yeah.
many hours per week would you like on average? Is it like how many hours do I have to put in?
If you were to truly do the training, Ruth, within the 10 to 12 week zone, so the training is structured 5 weeks, 2-week break, 5 weeks. If you were to
Mhm.
really only watch the content within the 10-week spot, it is about 13 hours of content
Oh,
per week,
okay.
13 to 15 hours
Mhm.
of content per week.
Okay.
With that said, the training officially starts September 7th. The team guided training starts September 7th. We open up for early bird enrollment on July 13th.
Oh, okay.
From the moment you enroll, you have access to the content and you can start going through the videos, logging your, like making notes, taking questions down. You can start moving through almost the entire, I mean, there's about 8 weeks there between July 13th and September 7th, where you can get a really good head start on the content.
Mhm.
And then the 2-week break, you could continue to work through. You could actually take a break. When the training is done, I believe November 30th is the last day off the top of my head. There is a full, because I think the closing date is January 17th. So you have another 6 weeks at the end to like catch up and move through all the content. And then even when that date is done, although we say that that's like all materials are due, that is flexible. If you are like, I need an extra month to film my class, then take an extra month to film your class. If you're like, I need 3 extra months to film my class, 3 other extra months. You have lifetime access to the content. So
Mhm.
that is your time to kind of, once you own it, move through it. The live calls are there, the mentoring is there. And that was the other thing I wanted to mention, is that not only do you have these calls with Lara and myself, but you'll also have a mentor that's assigned to the group. And the mentor will offer office hours once a week. And they're coming to you as like, hey, I was in your shoes not too long ago. And this is how I work with my clients. And they're going to do even practice teaching, like coaching sessions with you on your teaching. You guys can practice together as a group. So it really is a very supported training from start to finish. And it's just, it really has been very delightful. So we're always
And I
working.
would say, yeah, since we opened that, I mean, I don't know how many times we've been doing it now, but that 2 months beforehand, people rarely are like complain about the workload because they do get that little head start, and it's very helpful. Antoinette, you
Mhm.
had a question.
Okay, it slipped already.
Okay. About the schedule, about the requirements.
Oh, the 60-minute requirement do we create our own, or if I understood
No.
correctly, you get to choose one of the two to train back?
Yes,
There's yeah.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Out of the 10, so each week has 2 versions of the same class. So you can choose any
That's
one of those 20 options to teach, and that is the requirement. So we don't require you to start developing your own sequences right away. And there's been lots of conversation about that. Sometimes people are like, but I really wanted to learn. But there's still so much, especially if you're new to teaching, that it's just nice to know, look, this is a well-formulated class. Here are 10 well-formulated classes that you can just go and do with, right? And then when you're like, okay, now I think I got this enough that I'm ready to learn how to sequence, we have continuing education that goes through all the steps of sequencing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is just amazing.
Thank you. I told you it was,
No,
I know it's very, well, it's really, I mean, it sets everyone up. We have not had anyone who came through who like whether they were like really quiet and really not sure about if they'd ever want to teach, or whether they had already been teaching a lot and had to kind of reformat the way they were teaching. I mean, everyone feels so prepared, and that is the ultimate goal. And that to me is what you deserve. If you're putting the time and resources into something, you want to walk away and be like, I feel so confident to be able to teach this methodology and this education to whoever walks in the room, to any environment, any, whether it's a gym, a corporate setting, seniors, et cetera. Like we have teachers who are really teaching the gamut, like every kind of environment you can imagine. And all of them are like, I have such confidence to do it because of this program. So it's really well supported from not only the education, but from all the different aspects between me and Rhonna and the mentors. Yeah, you're going to get it all. Yeah.
And there is also, and I know this isn't for everyone, but there is a Facebook group which can be as robust as you want it to be. It's a great place that if you have questions, if you missed a live call where we were talking about posture, and then you're like, I wanted Lara to look at my posture, take a video of yourself. You know what we're going to look at, post it to the Facebook group, and then we can all comment, and it allows everybody to learn from that conversation together. So that's another touch point to help really just make the retraining more supportive.
Yeah. And also people are just like such cheerleaders for each other there. At the last cohort, they just graduated just a little bit ago. And it was like, I just taught my first class. And, and it's like, or I'm about to teach it. I'm so nervous. And it's just really a beautiful community. We have people that literally become best friends, that go and create something together. It's beautiful. And then when you graduate from this level 1, you're automatically put into our much bigger Facebook group, 700 LYT guided teachers, and that then you get that support. And then we have level 2, which is a talk for another day. But that's yeah. And you said you haven't felt yeah. So I mean, it's hard to feel confident. And this is, again, I didn't blame the teachers. I really felt like the system allowed really kind of just light in content trainings to just come forth. And they can provide community and they can provide some other things. But if you want to teach, it's always important to have the knowledge so that you're not just calling out stuff and then thinking you need to say something pithy because you don't really know what else to do, right? I was talking, it was interesting. I was in Telluride and this woman who was a teacher came up. She's like, I went through this teacher training. I didn't feel like I really learned anything. And in this teacher training, they really tell you how to count the breath out, inhale, exhale. And I said, when anybody really has to tell you when to breathe, that's because they don't really know how to tell you how to breathe. And she's like, I know. It's just like, we want to teach you the how and the why, and then then you have all the tools to just incorporate it in however you want to, whether it's working with private clients. People just feel confident to teach in all kinds of settings, and it makes a big difference. Yeah. Ruth. This is like our Zoom calls, don't worry. People try to figure it out.
I'm so bad at this whole technical stuff. Okay, so would it suffice if I taught that class to one person, or do I really need like a group of people?
No, you can teach to anybody. One person.
Okay.
We just need to see you in action. And people get nervous, but not really too nervous, because by that point they feel confident. But we're only looking at it to give you feedback, to really support you, and just to make sure that you're taking all of this. And it's not about like memorizing the class, but having a really good idea of it, so that you can be free to look and see how the people are responding. You might teach Antoinette, and that's totally fine. Like, you can teach anyone. We're just seeing how we can give you feedback so you can be the best teacher. It might be like, hey Ruth, that was amazing. I noticed you had a lot, which doesn't happen much with our Euros, by the way, or anybody that has English as a second language. But maybe it's like you had a lot of repetitive words. We talk about clarity of language. You'll become a better speaker because you're going to observe how clearly you can speak. So I'll talk about, like, when you're giving directions on the mat, it's not fluff. It's like you're directing a 5-year-old to put on their jacket and go outside. You don't say there, and now we're going to do this. I want you to go over there. And, it's very much like get your jacket off there, put it on your arms, zip up, and go outside. Super clear, super not fluffy, not extraneous words. So you become a better communicator, because we don't realize how many kind of filler words we say in speech. And when you're teaching a class and and you want to be as succinct and clear as possible, so we really will help you with that. And so we're really looking to just help you. It's not to like fail anybody. It's really just to help. So it's most people are really excited by the time to show us what they've learned and practiced.
Okay. Mhm.
I'm ready, Ruth.
Yeah, me too.
Ruth and point each
Ready?
other.
Good.
Wonderful.
Great.
So
Yeah.
up until this point, we have been talking about the team guided training, which is our most robust, comprehensive teacher training that includes these live interactive Zoom calls, includes the mentorship. And we were remiss to not mention that we do now have a new self-guided option, which Lara talked about before, which is just an abridged version of it. It is technically designed for someone who already does have their RYT 200 that just wants like an anatomy and lit methodology intensive to amplify what they've already done. I'm going to show you what that looks like and what you would need to do in order to move through that. It is a 70-hour course versus the Lit Level 1. The team guided is a 200-hour course. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like so that as you're considering what training option is best for you, this will help with that. So the self-guided comes in 2 products. You'll have 2 separate things that are kind of given to you upon sale. It looks very much the same at the beginning: the welcome, the course downloads, requirements for certification, and student licensing agreement. What is not included here is the live call schedule, because there are no interactive live calls with Lara and the team in this particular training. It is completely self-guided. Throughout, you'll see that it has the same for your asana class. It has the class breakdown. It has the modified version. It has the teacher methodology, it has the anatomy review, it has the posture. Developmental sequences is a required core video in this one because there is not necessarily the interactive live call. So that is there. And then there's the quiz. Okay, so this is going to be the core content that is just the anatomy focused 70-hour. You'll get a certificate of completion when you do that. If you want to then become Lit Level 1 certified, everyone also gets this bonus content. The bonus content includes a pre-recorded live call that Lara's done where the material is covered, and you'll see her work with other people. However, it is not you being able to get feedback on your practice. There are also then 3 classes here that support the week's theme. So these classes are taken from Lit Daily, where if the theme of the week is posture, then the classes here support that theme. So there are 3 classes here that are in a very beginner to intermediate level to kind of help you practice and embody the method more. And that's going to be here. This bonus content is here for everyone. At the end of doing both the core content and the bonus content, you can then record yourself teaching, submit it to us with a copy of your RYT 200, and you can get your Lit Level 1 certificate. So this is a way that you can, if you already have an RYT 200, that you can earn your Lit Level 1 certificate without having to go through the entire 200-hour course, including the mentorship and the philosophy lectures. This is just kind of a streamlined way to do that for people who already have an RYT 200 especially. This is also a really great stepping point for someone who's completely new potentially to yoga or just wants to kind of build up their own bodily awareness and knowledge. So this is a nice little kind of introductory course as well for anyone who wants to learn more about the body and about lit. And but they're not necessarily looking in to get an RYT 200. So that is, you'll see that it is very much the same core content is all there. But it just does not include the live calls, nor does it include sorry, it doesn't include the live calls, nor does it include the mentorship, and it doesn't include philosophy. So those are going to be the three big things that it doesn't include. I will say, although it didn't show when I shared my screen earlier, we are adding those bonus classes from LYT Daily to the guided course as well. So because it's just just supplemental, that way it is a really nice way to kind of be able to practice and embody and hear the way you can teach about posture, not only through Lara's classes, but just through hearing other people teach as well and how they explain the content. So I showed those in the core class, but starting when this new course goes for sale, this new cohort goes for sale, those classes will be embedded into the team guided training as well. So that is the big difference between the two. The team guided training only runs in those 2 times per year. The next one officially begins on September 7th. Early bird pricing for that starts on July 13th. As soon as you sign up for the training, you can get early bird, you can get immediate access to the content and get going. The self-guided training is available at any time for you to start and purchase and go at your own pace. Do you
Ruth,
either?
you had a question?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was wondering if is it required or advisable to have the LYT Daily membership additionally to the course while the course is running? Because I am at LYT Daily right now, but now I'm thinking when if I do that course, then it's a lot of content anyways. So
People often pause their membership.
okay. Mm-hmm.
Some people still take it, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like, that's what they don't want to miss out. Maybe they'll do one
Mm-hmm.
class from LYT Daily.
Mm-hmm.
And they do, because we have, one class per week that is the theme. And we
Yeah, okay.
recommend doing it several times so that you really get it in your body. And some people who want to do that several times, but then they also do something on LYT Daily. It's really up to you. You can pause your membership for sure, and this could be plenty of content. But if you think, oh, I usually practice 5 or 6 days a week, and I really want to go and do a few classes on LYT Daily as well, there's benefits to that because you'll start to see like the thread line being consistency. But it's totally up to you. You can totally pause it.
Okay, thanks.
In terms of guided, what I'll add is we've had a fair number of people do the self-guided, and those people, what you should know about yourself is you're pretty self-directed, right? Because this is all self-guided. That means we've had people that have done it, the self-guided, and they've just like gone through it. They've already been teaching 10 years. They've gone through it really quickly. They got that knowledge down. They'd also been practicing LYT Daily, and it worked really well. There's other people who've taken like 14 months. So I think one is know yourself. Like some people really thrive in a group setting, and this is a group setting, even if we're not all together. It's very supportive, very interactive. And if that's really important to you and you're learning, then the guided is just going to be the answer, even if you feel like you could do the self-guided as well, because you've already gotten 200 hour. If you don't have a 200 hour at all, then I would definitely do the guided anyway, because this is your first round and you want to make sure that you get all the feedback. But again, the self-guided is great for the people who have their 200 or just want more knowledge about LYT and don't necessarily want to teach. Or they're a personal trainer and they just want more knowledge and they want to add it on. Any kind of movement professional. We get a lot of people who've asked, hey, I'm a personal trainer. I'm a Pilates person. I don't really have the time to do a 200 hour. I really want to learn your method. And this was really created for all of those movement professionals who needed that kind of supplemental information. But if you want to teach LYT and you want the support, then I think guided is the way to go. Just
the last thing that I'll say about the self-guided training is that since the refresh, one of the things that we put into place is a 12-month for completion. So the core, I showed you, there's the core content and there's the bonus content. You have 12 months to complete the core content. And then if you complete the core content within the 12 months, you will then be re-granted the course for lifetime access. But we ask that you make your way through the course in a meaningful way within the 12 months. There are no time restrictions whatsoever on the team guided. So that is one of the things that is really nice of the team guided, is that not only do you have, although the structure of the guided portion is there, you really do have this open-endedness that allows you to do it at your own pace to whatever degree is right for you. The self-guided training is self-guided, but there also is, we've provided some structure in the sense that you have 12 months to kind of make it through the content meaningfully. Once that happens, just through the core content, then you'll be granted everything for lifetime access. So just know that that is the team guided training not only has all that support, but it also has the unlimited lifetime access from the get-go. The self-guided is less expensive, and but it does have the kind of that structured timeline for completion in order to get the lifetime access. So that was just a small note of difference as well. All of these details are listed out very well on one of our web pages, which I'll include in the email that you'll get after this call, with like, here's how I can look at a side-by-side comparison of the two trainings. We're going to send out the recording of this call as well, so that anyone who registered that couldn't, or if you want to review it later, you can go back and do that. And there are a couple of special offers that we just want to make to you all as you're kind of thinking about making your decision. First and foremost, if you choose to do the team guided training with us, open enrollment starts on July 13th. If any of you who are registered for this call, so it doesn't just mean the people who are on the call, but those who are registered, if you, and I have a list of names and email addresses, if you register for the self-guided training within the first 48 hours of it opening, and you'll get an email when it opens, don't you worry, we are going to grant you a free 30-minute private with myself or another level 2 teacher. Her name is Tegan. So you will get a free 30-minute private, or movement consultation is what we call it, as a way to say thank you for enrolling in the training right away when it opens for enrollment on July 13th. Alternatively, if you choose to go with the self-guided training, if you purchase the self-guided training within 48 hours of this call, so within the next 48 hours, we will give you $100 off the self-guided training. So those are going to be the two offers. All of that language will be included in the follow-up email so that it's very clear with links. And we're just really thrilled, and we just wanted to offer you guys a couple of incentives to kind of take the plunge and join us for either one of the trainings, because they're both wonderful options, and it's just a matter of which one's going to be the best fit for you, your learning style, your personality, and what else we have going on in our lives.
Yeah. And the most important thing is we are really here for you. Things might come up. We've had them come up, like people halfway through something. You just reach out and you could pause and you could just join the next cohort. You're not like, oh, sorry, you couldn't complete it, you're done. Like, we're always working for you. That's the whole goal, is to work for you to make sure that you get everything you want out of it, and you join our wonderful LYT teacher training or teacher community, which is incredible all over the world. Yeah, so thank you for taking the time for this, and for everybody watching, thank you. And we're here for you. Check for,
Thank you.
and yeah, sign up July,
Thanks.
whatever.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
definitely will.
Yeah,
Thank you very
you'll
much.
have so much time to like peruse the course and get some of that information down. It feels really good to do that. Yeah. All right. Thank
Great.
you so much. Thank you,
Great.
Rhonna.
Thank
Bye,
you, guys.
Bye,
Take
Ruth.
care.
Bye.
Bye.